There are habits that look like personality from the outside. People call them coldness, distance, sometimes intimidation. But what nobody around you realizes is that these habits were never choices. They were built, quietly, long before you had the words for any of it. And by the end of this video, some of these will hit closer to home than you're expecting. But before we get into them, one important distinction. Not every habit you carry is a flaw. And not every habit is simply your personality either. Some habits are who you genuinely are. Others are quieter, formed in response to environments where emotional support wasn't consistently there. Those habits weren't weaknesses. They were intelligence. The nervous system doing exactly what it needed to do to keep you safe. What looks like personality is often something the nervous system shaped long before you could see it happening. This video is meant to educate and validate, not diagnose. If anything here feels personally relevant, speaking with a mental health professional is always the right next step. Now, here's where this gets personal. You've probably been told some version of the same thing for years. That you're hard to read, that you're too quiet, that you keep too much inside, that something about you feels distant, even to the people who love you most. Those words landed differently than the speaker ever intended, because from the inside, you weren't being distant. You were doing exactly what you learned to do to feel safe. If you've ever wondered why people experience you as more guarded than you actually feel, this video is for you. So here's what we're doing today. 10 habits that quietly form when emotional support is missing in childhood. Where each one came from, what it protected, and what it's been costing you in connection without you ever realizing. Let's start with the first one. The first habit is foundational, and probably the one most people recognize right away. Habit 1. You hide what you feel. Not because you don't feel things deeply, you feel them more deeply than anyone around you realizes, but because somewhere very early on, you learned that showing what you felt didn't bring comfort. It brought dismissal, criticism, sometimes consequences worse than the feeling itself, so you became extraordinarily skilled at concealment. The face stays neutral, the voice stays steady, the room rarely sees what's happening underneath. From the outside, this reads as composure, sometimes coldness, sometimes judgment. Inside, it's simply protection. A nervous system that learned decades ago that hiding was safer than being seen. And others misread that protection as something it never was, which leads us straight to the second one. And this one runs even deeper. Habit 2. You never ask for help. Some psychologists call it the "I've got it" reflex. You don't reach out, even when you're drowning, even when help would obviously make things easier, even when the people around you have shown, repeatedly, that they'd gladly offer support if you just asked. You handle it, every time, automatically, often before anyone even notices there was a problem. This came from a childhood where help either never arrived too inconsistently to rely on, or came with conditions that made asking feel more costly than staying silent. So you stopped expecting it, you learned to handle everything yourself, and you got very good at it. But this self-sufficiency carries a hidden cost. From the outside, you look untouchable. People who bond through mutual support can't find a way in. They see your independence and assume you don't need them. Even when, underneath, a quiet part of you was always waiting for someone to ask. And there's a reason you noticed all of that, without anyone teaching you to. Habit 3. You read the room constantly. You scan, always. The shift in someone's tone, the flicker of expression that lasted less than a second, the pause before someone answered that lasted half a beat too long. You pick up emotional information that most people in the same room miss entirely. This wasn't a personality trait. It was a survival skill, built in an environment where reading the emotional weather around you was the difference between safety and trouble, where predicting the mood of the adults in your life mattered more than almost anything else you could do. So you became sensitive, attuned, constantly aware. The cost? Others often feel watched in your presence, even when you're trying to be invisible. Your attention has a depth they can sense without being able to name. And what was, in childhood, a protective gift, has become something other adults sometimes find unsettling without understanding why. And that same awareness shows up the moment you open your mouth. Habit 4. You think before you speak. You don't just say things, you curate them. You weigh the word before it leaves your mouth. You anticipate how it might be received. You consider what could be misinterpreted, what could be twisted, what could come back to you later in a form you didn't intend. This developed in environments where the wrong word had real consequences, where casual speech wasn't safe, where carelessness with language cost something real, emotionally, relationally, sometimes more. So you learn to filter everything, quickly, automatically, before any cost could arrive. The result is a deliberateness in your speech that other people find weighty. Your silences carry meaning. Your pauses feel significant. You come across as more authoritative than you ever intended to be, because most people simply don't pay this much attention to their own words. What others read as power is actually a lifetime of careful protection. But for every word you carefully filter, there's one that slips out without permission. Habit 5. You apologize too much. Sorry leaves your mouth before you've even checked whether anything actually requires an apology. Sorry for asking a question. Sorry for taking up space in a room. Sorry for needing something simple. Sorry for being in someone's way when you weren't actually in their way. The word arrives automatically, a preemptive softening of your own presence, almost a verbal apology for existing in the moment you're existing. This developed in environments where your needs were treated as inconvenience, where having any need at all became something you sensed you should hide. So you started apologizing for the having, not just for occasional mistakes. And here's the paradox. Constant apology creates an undercurrent of discomfort in the people around you. They feel that something is wrong, but can't name what. They sense your apology was about something deeper than the moment, and they don't know how to respond. So they often respond by quietly stepping back. Quick pause here. If any of these first 5 have felt uncomfortably familiar, drop the number in the comments. Just the number that hit you hardest. This channel, UNFELT, exists for people exactly like you. People who are finally finding language for what they've been carrying for years. Subscribe, hit the bell. So, let's keep going, because the next 5 go even deeper. Habit 6. You don't enjoy small talk. Surface conversation drains you in a way other people seem to find effortless. The weather, the traffic, the polite nothing questions, the kind of casual exchange other adults move through so naturally, somehow takes more energy from you than anyone around you understands. Something in you can't get traction in those waters. You prefer depth, real questions, real answers, the kind of conversation where something is actually being said. This came from a childhood that didn't give you enough of that depth, where surface-level exchange was either all there was, or where real conversation was so rare, you became permanently hungry for it. So now, you can't pretend to enjoy what you never learned to find satisfying. The cost? Skipping pleasantries makes you seem too intense for casual social spaces. People who connect through small talk feel you don't quite belong in their conversations. And you, in turn, often feel slightly out of place in rooms where surface is the only language being spoken. And that same distance shows up in moments most people would broadcast to the world. Habit 7. You don't share good news when something good happens in your life. You don't announce it. You don't post it. You don't call anyone to tell them. You don't even share it with most of the people closest to you. Something in you withholds, quietly, almost automatically, long before you've consciously decided to keep it private. This came from environments where joy was minimized, mocked, dismissed, or invited unwelcome attention you didn't want, where good news wasn't always met with celebration, where sharing something positive sometimes carried a hidden cost that other people would never understand. So, you learned to keep good things private, for protection. Now, happiness lives mostly inside you, in a place where nobody can comment on it, Nobody can dampen it. Nobody can take it. But the cost is real. Your privacy creates distance, even from the people who would have genuinely celebrated with you. They sense there's a whole inner life they're not being invited into. And without realizing it, they slowly stop trying. And the same instinct that hides your joy also pushes away kindness the moment it arrives. Habit 8. You can't take compliments. Someone says something genuinely kind, and your body almost reflexively deflects it. You minimize. Oh, it was nothing. You redirect. Anyone would have done the same. You change the subject as quickly as possible. You point the attention back toward them, anywhere but the moment of being seen. Receiving feels physically uncomfortable in a way that's almost impossible to explain to people who can simply say thank you and move on. This came from a childhood where being seen, really seen, kindly, without an agenda, wasn't safe or wasn't consistent, where attention often came with conditions, where praise sometimes carried a price. So now, even unconditional kindness triggers an instinct to escape it, and the cost is significant. Deflecting compliments makes the other person feel rejected, even when you weren't trying to reject them. They sense their kindness didn't land. They become hesitant to offer praise again. And the small moments of being seen, moments your nervous system actually needs to heal, quietly stop arriving. And before any of that even has a chance to happen, there's something you do first, every single time. Habit 9. You watch before you join. This habit happens within seconds of entering any room. Your default position is observer. You walk into a gathering, and before you've fully stepped into it, you're already reading it. The energy, the dynamics, who's comfortable, who isn't, where the safe corners are, what kind of conversation is happening, and whether it's a conversation you can safely enter. You stand slightly outside the group. You watch first. You participate only after you understand the room. This was learned in environments where joining too quickly meant getting hurt, where revealing yourself before understanding the room had consequences, where the safest position in any space was the one that let you see without being fully seen. So you adapted, and now, even in genuinely safe rooms, the observer position remains automatic. The cost? The quiet observer is often the most feared person in any space. People wonder what you're thinking. They sense your attention but can't read your conclusions. And what was, for you, a careful and protective way of entering the world, becomes something other people experience as a quiet kind of judgment. Which brings us to the deepest one on this list. Habit 10. You don't trust consistency. This habit is one that quietly destroys the relationships you actually want. When someone shows up for you consistently, something in you doesn't relax, it tightens. You start scanning for the shift, the withdrawal. The moment this person reveals, they're just like everyone else who eventually left. This came from a childhood where consistency never lasted, where warmth arrived and disappeared without warning, where trusting the pattern meant getting blindsided when it broke. So now the safer someone feels, the harder your nervous system looks for proof that it won't last. You don't distrust people because they've failed you. You distrust the pattern because the pattern always changed. Now step back for a moment, look at all 10 together, and something becomes clear. None of these are personality flaws. None of them are coldness or distance or who you really are independent of what shaped you. They're an intelligent, coordinated nervous system response to growing up in an environment where emotional support wasn't consistently there. A response that protected you, that helped you survive, that kept you safe in moments you can probably no longer remember. You didn't choose any of these habits. You inherited them from your own childhood. And here's the part that changes everything. For years, maybe decades, you've been called intimidating, hard to read, too independent, too quiet. Those words were never accurate. They were just other people interpreting your protection through their own lens. They saw the surface, the composure, the autonomy, the silence, and assumed it meant something about how you felt about them. It never did. You weren't being distant. You were being safe. You weren't being cold. You were being careful. What people called intimidating was actually you protecting the parts of yourself that were never protected as a child. So where do you go from here? Not transformation, not becoming a completely different person, not abandoning the strength that survival built, just 3 small permissions. First, notice when a habit is running, the moment a sorry arrives that wasn't needed, the moment you deflect a compliment without thinking, the moment you start managing everything yourself before checking whether you have to. Notice it. You don't need to change it yet, just see it. Second, try one small opening. Share one thing you would normally hide, something small, with one person you genuinely trust. Third, choose the right person, not everyone, not all at once, one safe person. Practice receiving from them, slowly, carefully, one small moment at a time. Because here's the truth nobody told you growing up. You built every one of these habits because you had to. You don't have to apologize for any of them. You don't have to dismantle them all at once. You don't have to become a completely different person to begin healing. You can keep the strength that survival built and still let yourself be known. You can still be the person who handles things and let one person in. You can still observe the room and choose to step into it. You can still hide what you feel and choose with one safe person to be seen. And when someone shows up for you consistently, you can let the pattern hold just once without waiting for it to break. You were never broken. You were just never shown what safe felt like. Before you go, which of these 10 hit you the hardest? Just drop the number in the comments, 1 through 10. I read every single one. And if this video gave language to something you've carried quietly for years, subscribe to UNFELT. Hit the bell so you never miss a video. This channel exists for people who are ready to understand why they became who they are. You're exactly who this was made for.